So, interesting day and a worthwhile day in quite a few ways. Um, the walk into town and going to get a coffee and a sausage roll and a couple of coffees. Couldn't get a coffee because the stamp that I would have used, like I said, the voucher all of a sudden wasn't available. And the sausage roll wasn't hot, and so on and so forth. You know, the tree and dregs and all the rest of it, and all the rest of it, where you just don't really engage it. You just, I've done it. I should have done enough work to make it blatantly obvious how I approach this. They'll just reject all the advertising, whether positive, negative, and so on, and just get on with it to the best of my ability. And it's interesting that not only when I'm doing these videos, which are good for me, but when I'm watching these videos back, which is also good for me, I get the drug-ins around it, which is another indication to me about the odd nature of the power that's behind the ideas of care and so on. That are important, that are really important, as I'm starting to get drugged up now, possibly just for saying that, which is an accurate and valid, mature critique of the way things are being done by certain people. So I went for a couple of coffees. Yeah, and what I mentioned in the last videos, there was the amateur dramatics that owe so much to the Hollywood B movie. We're going on down there to a certain extent, and just pretty much, like I said, you just don't get involved with the ad campaign. Okay, sometimes you point it out and make commentary on it, as it's like sort of distanced, objective commentary, without trying not to apply value judgments on it. That can be difficult, but when part of, like, sometimes it's good to let off steam, for example, despite the fact that that can be used as a pretext for drug-ins and so on and so forth, as everyone should know pretty much by now. So quite, don't know if I enjoyed my time at the coffee shop now, but I did. I enjoyed talking to the worker there. That might not last on the basis of me just saying that, but I did a hit across some pretty good ideas, and there are a couple in particular that basically, well, one, I wouldn't have gone. I don't think, looking back in retrospect, I wouldn't have gone into further education. I wouldn't have gone into higher education, college and uni. To me, that's indicative now of too much conformity and much prefer, and this is part of my background, to doing my own stuff. And in this era, since about in the lead up to 2000, they're criticised, but they did, credit where it's due, they did open up the scene. Amazon, you could get pretty much any book you wanted, and that then opened up the horizon to people who wanted to conduct independent study. Like I say, my background is, and it's a background that has been characterised according to a false depiction of my background, which I've covered in videos recently. There's an attempt to medicalise, to problematise that background, which I've hinted at recently as well. That's really important. That's part of who I am. maintain a critical distance, a healthy critical distance from mainstream culture, and to pass comment on it. It's what I like doing. It's in the nature of the content I really am interested in. Not the 25 amalgam years that came about off the back of the architects and so on and so forth, and all that stuff that I talked about countless times in the past. Yeah, that is pretty much my approach. To have that, the psychiatrist at the last on the last psychiatric unit I was on said, "You're arguing as if it was the end of the world." It's actually getting back to who I am. That should have been seen as a good sign. But again, this is the nature of the communication. It's piss poor, but that's the way it is. Which was evident, like I've said countless times, in the closing stages of me being on that ward. And it'll continue to be so, I think, especially when there's a distance between me and them. That's not for me calling for myself to be admitted to a psychiatric ward again. That's the powers that be may be trying to engineer a scenario like that, and so on. But if I'm being medicalised for stuff that's really important part of my background and what makes me the person I am, the person I really am, rather than that 25-year concoction that was conforming to this, that, or whatever, then it's like pretty ridiculous. But it's like rejecting the ad campaign seems to be getting some people's back up. Maybe judging from the way things are done. I'm pretty much getting back to how I really am. When I, for example, ring housing or Amazon, I want the job done. I don't want some Hollywood B movie from the 50s or some ad campaign from the 50s enacted out for the wider audience. I couldn't give a shit. Like with housing this morning, it stands to reason that most of the calls I make, because of the kerfuffle that's been engineered, I'm guessing are routed to psychiatric workers, possibly. I can't rule it out. Who would? So, I have to deal with these people. So there's that part of it as well. That's pretty much an imposition when you consider that I did say to them, and sort of said in this room, and I've said, I may have mentioned in videos, they sort of boxed themselves into a corner so that they couldn't deal with what I wanted, which was a practical, after seeing what I saw at the end of my time on the ward, a practical distance where we dealt with one another via email, which would have, let things settle, let things just work themselves out on their own. But because of the pressures these people have essentially put themselves under, it's like, I'll be very surprised if my calls aren't getting routed through to people who are working for the power and the notions of care where power's implicated in that, even though that's not the impression that's tried to be given oftentimes, I'm just not interested. I'll take pills, maybe for a certain period of time, and then maybe work to come off them, or at least reduce them significantly. But as for the bullshit, I'm just no longer fucking interested. It's like I said at the coffee shop. They were put up to put out certain musical tracks, and it was all really irrelevant stuff to me. Like all the stuff I see in town, it's all stuff I'm not interested in anymore. There may have been a time where I was interested in the type of stuff that gets, I'd argue, advertised. But that time's gone. But in some ways I do make the mistake of letting off steam about it. But it's not really a mistake, is it? But that's how, these people, like, from I've got to put together how they behave. When they get NHS workers to run around once it's become obvious that they're off the roads, to make it look like they're not, that sort of is an indication to me to just leave them to it. I'll take the pills for a certain amount of time, but that's that as far as I'm concerned. But the argument I came up with at that I sort of stumbled upon at the coffee shop of tying in Marshall McLuhan's "The Medium is the Message," where psychiatry pretty much always did really presuppose, on the basis initially of third-party gossip statements, I'd like to call them, their great need for this big deal involvement, and then off the back of that construct this big deal scenario around notions of care, which is sort of, in no small part, a big ad for things like psychology, psychiatry, and so on and so forth. Now, me, I want to go for a couple of cups of fucking coffee. If I go to Tesco, I want to get some hot dog sausage rolls. People are advertised down there. Advertise as much as you like, but try and keep it away from me, because I'm not interested. But anyway, that's the way it goes. But yeah, important point now, the medium is the message. How psychiatry over time has sort of imposed these notions around my background. I've sort of, like I've said, I've sort of indicated about that. Primarily that I do like keeping a critical distance from mainstream society and do my own thing. I like doing that. And all the nagging that goes on. I mean, this isn't why I stopped watching telly. Telly had served its purpose. I've got no beef with the people on telly, but I've done what I needed to do with the TV. To go back now, it'd just be yet again another attempt to generate, like you see around you, sort of thing, around me, sort of thing. In like certain types of seeing things, like when I'm drugged up, not only doing these videos but watching these videos, which is sort of an indication. It's all pretty odd stuff. But yeah, the nagging that goes on, you get pretty bored of it, and that's been a good thing actually, because that's one of the reasons why I reject all the advertising. I don't tend to go for the positive or the negative side of the advertising. The advertising's there. I may pass comment on it. I may occasionally let off steam about it. But ultimately, it's just fucking advertising, and I'm not interested. Anyway, right, that's dealt with. So anyway, important point for me to start looking through, looking at psychiatry, psychology, and so on. These institutions that call themselves caring professions as mediums. And the medium is the message. In this instance, perhaps, I'm not ruling it out, but yes, for now, I will take meds. But like I say, I want those significantly reduced, and eventually, possibly, to come off them. That may, because of the way they've gone with things, they may have made that unlikely. But isn't that a side issue? To me it is. But anyway, like with the housing, like we're dealing with the housing, the phone call with the housing, where they tried to, a locksmith was supposed to come round. Again, we get the type of stuff in St. Paul. They've arranged an appointment for me with one of the shrinks at the local nut house. Again, couldn't do email. They'd boxed themselves into a corner where they couldn't do email. So I'm going to have to go through the rigmarole of where, like with probably with the housing that's under the power of the these institutions, and possibly the call was routed. I would guess it was to a psychiatric worker. After the locksmith had obviously been instructed to only look at one job of two. So these things go by now, surely, and sort of that's why it's irritating. It's like, for fuck's sake, again. And but these are the stunts they pull. The old gags are the best, but that just seems to encourage them to come out with more and more, which to me again is like, surely you learn from stuff like that. But maybe I'm missing a point there or something. Anyway, so yeah, that was all. I put off the locksmith coming, even though he was pretty insistent on coming, which was interesting to me in light of everything. But eventually I said, no, you're not coming around. As I'm allowed to, sort of thing. And so he didn't come round. And then I had a phone call that was just bullshit. And eventually I managed to get a date arranged for after I'll speak with the shrink at the local nut house. Be rest assured, we know how these things go by now. There will be a whole heap of shit stirring in the lead up to me going to speaking with this shrink via video link. And like I said, this ain't those 25 years anymore, for me at least. So however that's worked, I'll deal with it my way, the way I would do based on my background as it is, not as it was fashioned for those 25 years, which was in no small part off the back of 4 years of third-party gossip statements. Anyway, right, that dealt with. You get on with your day sort of thing, or at least you try to. Phone calls with Amazon, bullshit phone calls. Again, quite possibly related to psychiatric workers, maybe not, possibly were. But again, dealt with them, and just got on with it, sort of thing. Of course, I can't really come out with the stuff, with the type of storylines, the adverts they were coming out with around South Asians now, as I've now pointed out. That was sort of bullshit generated over between 2016 and 2024, 2025. And I have pointed that out. The first time I'd ever become interested in that stuff was between 2016 and 2024, 2025. I really wouldn't have become interested in that stuff. But anyway, that's the way it was at the time. But yeah, anyway, dealt with that, got on with stuff, and that's about that. And then just recently, a few things came along that I'm really chuffed about, a few gadgets that I can use now, as I'm going to start calling myself an independent filmmaker. Really just a fancy name for a video diarist. I might actually stick to video diarist, actually, I do like that term. But yeah, another thing I thought about at the coffee shop that I've tried to develop throughout the day is that I've already mentioned that, haven't I? Let's have a look. 80 minutes. I've probably already mentioned that about education that I'd wish I'd done independently. Yes, I have. Indeed, I have. I'm going to have to watch this because I'm not actually sure because I've done another cut of this. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, all that dealt with. Also we had kids bouncing the football, which almost certainly, the way things go, was a repetition of the type of stuff they did on the hospital ward with people kicking footballs about, with the connotations of stuff they'd engineered via the media and so on and so forth, with the whole heap of mind games and all the rest of it. I don't really buy it anymore. It's like, I'm capable of forming my own independent judgment, thank you very much. Yeah. Eventually, anyway, even on the meds, slow down my thinking, which is possibly why I struggle a bit with going around town, because they do slow down my thinking. They do make my thinking sluggish. They can get me thinking in uncharacteristic ways. But eventually, I'll settle down and it's everything's okay again. But yeah, steak, egg and chips tonight as the drugging start again. So steak, egg and chips tonight. Really looking forward to it. But yeah, whatever I say, the first shot with one of my new filters looks a bit dark to me. But anyway, the first shot with one of my new filters for my camera. I had to take, I don't know how many takes, except with that many trees desperate to be seen, or maybe mixed with kiddie people. I'm not sure, as I cough in ways I wouldn't. But yeah, so I'd like to make a video. And one of the, important point, I think, one of the pretty much the main reason I don't even bother looking at people anymore when I'm at the coffee shop is I'm not really much of a people watcher anyway in that sense. And also, I don't really want to go there. I don't really want to, see people running around and trying to make this big deal drama, that big deal drama. I just look at the stuff and I think, for fuck's sake, I'm not interested in advertising. And I'm just not. How many more times have I got to say it? But again, maybe, like we got on the ward, like we got the Way Good and the likes of that, where they really have, got themselves in such a state, in such a need for some sort of dynamite. I don't know. Maybe they have, that they keep driving for that. I don't know. No idea. But it sort of smacks of trying to generate arguments. And I mean that I'll use that term in a neutral sense. I do like debating. But anyway, not about adverts. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, and off the back of that, and off the back of rejecting advertisements, when I do get back here and compartmentalise, when I do watch these videos that I've done, despite the fact that I've been drugged up, making them, and oftentimes drugged up, watching them, so I can't get the full benefit of them immediately, and eventually I do get there. Like I said, maybe because these people have set themselves up as we are the carers and all this sort of thing. We know what's needed, we define meaning, we define solutions, and so on and so forth. It's not really my way, is it? It's not really my background to do that sort of thing. Which is one of the reasons why, when I was in town, I said, I pointed to one of the media effects during the architect years of One Direction, and that sort of Britain's Got Talent and all that sort of media type stuff, which was based on, psychology, psychiatry, and so on and so forth. One Direction. Well, me, I'd rather point at Mark Hughes's One Dimensional Man. I haven't read it yet, but I do want to read it. And to me, that's like not only good for me, but good for people to think about, I think, as well. Not everyone's got the time to indulge in independent thinking, independent reading. Most people, they go to work, they get home, they switch on the TV, and that's about that. That's about the only time they've got. Me, I have got time. At the moment, I'm not able to use it very well. We know I'm doped up to be in certain states. So I can't do certain things. So it looks ever more like, perhaps, what they call themselves the caring services. Like I said, there is a degree of that, but there's also a degree of power in it as well. But I would like to get on with my reading, get with other things. There's certain things I don't do now, not necessarily the TV, but other things that I've just been nagged about so fucking much. It's just boring. That's just the way I approach things. But yeah, one final thing. my day-to-day living. Yeah, I used to use social media. I wouldn't have. But the only significant thing I'd argue that has changed between now and more recent times is speaking with my mum. I was thinking about that quite a lot today, and I don't know about yesterday. But yeah, thinking about how I used to come back here, and she'd ask me about my day. I'd say that was about that. And I never placed as much, or maybe I did because I was possibly engineered into some sort of way of approaching it all. But I don't mind about that in particular. There were good positive aspects to that. But yeah, just that. And I have heard people in the past saying, you know, I wish I could speak to my mum again. I wish, I could have one more conversation with her and stuff like, that sort of thing. I really miss that day-to-day thing where you can just say, yeah, I did this, mom, I did that. But do you know what I mean? Now I ain't got that. That's really the only day-to-day difference that's significant. Social media, like I said, that was pretty much crap. But that is the only really significant thing I do really miss. Though I haven't got that anymore, because even though it seemed so mundane, it was so important.